What? Yeah, from Memphis. Yeah. The River. All right. We're on Daf Aleph Amraf in Masechet Eruvin. Movi shugavah me'asir mama. Movi which is higher than 20 amos. You have to diminish its height. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, in other words, the Korah at the opening of the Movi, if it's higher than 20 amos, you have to pull it down. Rabbi Yehuda Omer in the Torah says you do not need to do so. Baruch me'asir amos if it's broader than 10 amos, you have to diminish its width. If it's got a Tzuras HaPesach, Afal Pishu Rocha Me'asar Amos, even if it's wider than 10 amos, you do not need to diminish its width. Okay, Rabbi Yosef said the following statement without attribution. Rav Acha made the same statement the name of Rav, which is Rabbanan Yafilai Pisco Shleichel. This is all we had this in the Bavli. Rabbanan learned from the opening to the Heichal. The opening of the Heichal was, of course, 10 by 20. Rabbi loved me Pesach Ulam learned from the opening to the Ulam, the broader hall in front of the Beis HaMikdash, which was 20 by 40. Ask him if that's the case. Imi Pesach Ulam, if you learned that from the opening of the Ulam, Dayo Arboy Mama, then it should be sufficient if it could reach the height, obtain the height of 40 amos, not higher than that. The Tziniatam we learned over there, Pesach Ulam Gabar Arboy Mama. The height of the Ulam was 40 amos wide, the Rochav Esri Mama, and 40 amos high and 20 amos wide. Yet, nonetheless, we learned, Tari Rabbi Chia said, Afilu Arboy V'chamishim, that an Eruv can even be, the Korah can even be 40 or 50 amos high. How do you get up to 50? The limit up should be 40 because the opening to Lulam was 40 amos, right? So how do you get anything above that? So it says, Tari Bar Kapora was up by the Kasha, and Bar Kapora said, Afilu Mea Amo. You can even go up to 100 amos in terms of the height of a Korah. So I'm Rabbi Ovid. Rabbi Ovid said, Rabbi Yehuda Kedaite. And here's a new thing. New thing? Ready? There was none in the Bavli. Ready? Kedaite, Rabbanan Kedaton. Ready? Holds like his opinion, Rabbanan holds like their opinion. The Tziniaton we learned over there, V'chein Geshorim Amfulashim, you have a bridge. Imagine you're walking under any bridge. Take any bridge. Walking under a bridge. And Metaltin Tachtein B'Shabbos, Stevie Rabbi Yehuda. One can carry under the bridge on Shabbos, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Why is that? Who wants to take a guess? What principles Rabbi Yehuda used to lie to carry under the bridge? What? We didn't. Sorry. We will have it on Daf Tzadi. Hey, we didn't have it yet. Maybe we spoke about it. What makes Rishus HaYachid? Therefore what? No, that's true. Covered Rishus HaYachid, covered Rishus Rabin carrying. That's true. That's a good point. But here it is not using that principle, but rather Pitikra Yored V'Sosem. The edge of a roof is considered to be a wall. So here, because that would only work the Raisa. The principle you bring in that under the roof is Rishus HaYachid will work the Raisa, but here we want to be Matid Rabbanan. Now, the truth is, the Pnei Moshe points out, any bridge is by definition Rishus HaYachid the Raisa according to Rabbi Yehuda anyway. Even without the PT Korean Visayis, because Rabbi Yehuda holds on to make Rishus HaYachid the Raisa, all you need is 2 walls. Right, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is always 2 walls is enough. So every bridge has 2 walls, even if it goes over Rishus HaRabin. Yet at the same time, we have to be matir to carry underneath it here to Rabbanan. Or you want to extrapolate from the bridges to a Korah. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says the principle at work in the bridge is Pitikra Yored V'Soisim. The edges of the bridge are as if they are walls. The edges, meaning the side of the roadway, is as if it's a wall, and that comes down and closes it off. Guraches. Gurach coming down. Gurachek is going up, Guraches going down. We don't hold Pitikra, we works in that situation. We hold Pitikra only works if you actually have walls which go at an angle. 2 walls go at an angle, then you can say Pitikra, but not 2 walls which are parallel to each other. Okay? But Rabbi Yehuda holds even by two holes which are parallel to each other. You say PT Kroyer B'Soisim on the sides of the ceiling. And therefore here, extending that further, Rabbi Yehuda holds that by a Kori, you say PT Kroyer B'Soisim. It ain't the Tikra, but that's how he holds it works. Right, so the Korah has to have thickness according to him. But once it has thickness, at least the tefach, once it has thickness of a tefach, which is the minimum necessary to say pitikra, so even if it's above 40 amos, it doesn't matter. Because pitikra yer v'soisim is halacha that it's a mechitza. And if it's a mechitza, it doesn't matter how high. Now, Rabbanan old Korah works mishum heker. So it's a device to remind you not to carry out. So therefore, there are limitations. The hekers, whatever you can be makir. What can be makir only if it's less than 20 amos. But like Rabbi Yehuda, that it's a mechitza, doesn't matter. No matter how high it is still is a mechitza. To the best of my recollection, the Bavli doesn't have this discussion. And I think I recall pretty well because we learned it relatively recently. Bavli does not have this deep a discussion. Rabbi Yehuda learns out, but it talks about the Pesach Shel Heichel, Sheulam, and how can we learn Pesach Shulam, and it says the Pesach Shulam is not necessarily a Pesach, and therefore could be even higher than that, things like that. But it doesn't come out of chlor and say that Rabbi Yehuda learns Pitik or Yerd V'Soisim like the Yerushalmi does. Okay? The Chachamim, of course, even a Geshem foolish. The Chachamim forbid carrying under the bridge because they don't use Pitik or Yerd V'Soisim. At least not again. Here they wouldn't even use the deraisa because you need to have two walls which go like that, right? And the gesher doesn't have that. It's a gesher mefulash. It's an open bridge, right? But even if you had, the truth is, even if you had two walls like that, it still wouldn't say pitikra de rabbanon. I think according to Rabbanon, or to be matzah underneath. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Let's strike that for the record. We'll have to wait till we get there.
On the bridge itself.
No. It'd be because it's covered. That's what Mr. Zuger said. But he still wouldn't be allowed to carry there. Yeah. It wouldn't work the Rabbanan to allow you to carry there. Okay? Says one further. Heich ma'atemer tamon. At Reis Maltur Kula. Now here the Bnei Moshe changed it slightly. Maltur is really more tugapast. It's a word which fits more with the concept of Korah. So he switches the words here. So I'll read the way the switches. Hechma Tamer Tamon at Roye as Hatikra. You take the word from two lines, hence, and put it here. At Roye it's Hatikra Kilu Kulo, which means Ki'ilu. As if Yoredis V'Sosem is coming down and closing. Here too you perceive the beam Kili Yoredis V'Sosem instead of it's coming down and closing. Yeah. Oh, you mean why did I make you guess if it says it later on? Yeah. I do it all the time. That's one of the tricks of my trade. Right. So, who dieted Rabbi Yehuda b'Sukkah, dieted b'Mavui? There's a consistency between Rabbi Yehuda by Sukkah. Rabbi Yehuda by Sukkah holds it can be above 20 amos. And by Mavui he also holds the current to be above 20 amos. Who dieted the Rabbanan b'Sukkah, dieted b'Mavui? Rabbanan consistent also with Sukkah and Mavui. By the whole by Sukkah can't be above 20 amos. The whole by Mavui can't be above 20 amos. However, the low damya. It's not completely similar. Here, low dami means not everything is similar. Yesh v'ayin ksherim b'sukkah. There's things that are okay by sukkah, psulim b'mavi, and are no good by mavi. Ksherim b'mavi, things that are okay by mavi, psulim b'sukkah, and they're no good by sukkah. Dukranim. For example, if you put the schach on stilts above, I don't know if stilts the right word, on poles, above your walls. Let's say your walls only 10 tefachim high, and you put the schach on poles 19 amos high. It's still a kosher sukkah, right? The schach doesn't have to be in close proximity to the walls. You need to have walls, and you need to have schach, but they don't have to be in proximity to each other. The walls could be itty-bitty 10 tefachim walls, and the schach can be 19 amas high, as long as it's not above 20 amas, according to Rabbanan, right? According to Rabbi, even higher than that, right? So you can put the schach on dukronim, on stilts, standing high up. However, by a mavli, doesn't work. Psulim b'mavli. In a mavli, if you have a wall, this is fine. You're not going. I don't think this organization ever got off the ground. One. Yeah. What a naive idea. One Jewish people dedicate healing rifts and building bridges. The only bridges we build are one which make tikros. But in any event, if you have a mavli, right? Here's the outer wall of the mavli, let's say, right? The mavli stretches back from here. So if you put a korah on stilts like this, it's no good. If it's more than 3 tefachim above the, opening to the mavli, that's no good. The truth is, there are cases in which we say chavot rami. We're not talking about those right now. There's certain cases in which we see it as if it's below, right? If it's wide enough, and there's certain situations, but generally speaking, if it's higher up, actually it might only be in the Bavli. I don't know if Yerushalmi holds of chavot rami. In the Bavli, we had a concept. Perish over here. In the Bavli, we had a concept of chavot rami. Let's see where we can find that one here. This is no good. You see, when it was not reaching over the sides, right? When it was in the middle of the mavli and was neither over not directly over the sides and above the middle butts. In case we did have a case of chavot rami where we said that if it's too high, you can put it down. Only I don't see it now. I don't remember exactly where it was. Yeah, that's it. Picture number 181 in the first parak. So we said you can be mitzdaref these two in order to make a valid korah. But I see that here they're both inside the mavli. So could be the Bavli and Yerushalmi do agree, because here it's about when they're both inside the walls of the mavli, it's just that one is high and one is low. And then we say that you see them as if they're together. But where it's above and beyond the mavli altogether, like the picture we're dealing with over here, so that's no good. So that's called dukranin, and that's bad. Okay? So even if it was directly over, it's possible that the Bavli would passel. Okay? Rav Ashi says, although it's not true, Rav Ashi says that's being meshucha v'itluya. I take back what I just said. The Bavli Shami do argue, because Rav Ashi says it's only no good if it's meshucha v'itluya. If it's both, right? If it's both not over, if it's both above and not directly over. But if it's directly above and directly over, so it's okay, according to Rav Ashi, if I recall correctly. Here, the Yerushalmi is saying that to put it higher than the mavli itself, even if it's not directly over, it's still no good. Okay? Except the Bavli comes up with, the Yerushalmi comes up with a very interesting chiddush. Says the Yerushalmi, this again is unique to the Yerushalmi. Wait, we're not finished with that. The Yerushalmi says, Vitani Kane, First of all, says Yerushalmi, it's only where this is more than 3 above the ksolim. Right? This distance has to be more than 3. Okay? This is not more than 3 above the walls of the mavli, kosher. And here's the big chiddush. Let's say here these dukranim themselves were 4 by 4. Okay? This was 4 by 4. And so to over here the same thing. They were 4 by 4. Okay, if the Dukranim themselves were 4 by 4, then that's considered to be an extension of the height of the Mavli, right? Because that's the minimum shear of a wall, 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. So therefore, that extends the wall of the Mavli higher, and that then even though the korah is placed on these stilts on those posts, it's still a valid korah. Okay, so that's a chiddush in the Yerushalmi. Now, defanos kasheres b'sukkah. Let's give another example. There are certain walls that are kosher by sukkah, psulos b'mavli, and are possible b'mavli. The Tarike, we know this is the basic building blocks of sukkah. Shtein kilchos, it says the 2 walls by a sukkah, you have to have 3 walls by a sukkah. 2 walls have to be proper walls. Ushlish is the 3rd wall, afilu tefachim, which is the size of a tefach, that's good enough. Okay? Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Yochanan said, even less. Shtayim, you don't even need 2 walls kilchosam. Shtayim shall arba tefachim. The first 2 walls have to be a rove of a wall. The shiur of a wall, the minimum shiur of a wall in the sukkah is 7 tefachim, right? If you have the majority of a wall, which is 4 tefachim, each of the first 2 walls, then the 3rd wall can be even 1 tefach, and that suffices, right? Shesafil tefach kosher, right? Ba'modi, it's got to be closed off on all 4 sides. 3 sides with walls, and the 4th side with a korah. Okay? A sukkah can for sure be open on 1 side, and it can even have most of the 3rd side open, right? But by a mobile, it's got to be totally closed on 3 sides. On 4th side, you also have to put up a korah or a lechi in order to be matzaret. Okay? Similarly, a rachav me'eser amos. If the sukkah is broader than 410 amos, ksheira, it's a valid sukkah. Umavi possible. A mavi can't be wider than 10 amos. Hidlo love is a gefen vesatlas. This is a fascinating thing. The way Reb Chaim Kanievsky explained it. Let's say you use. Well, not yet, actually. Next fascinating thing is the next thing. Let's just do this. This is a prelude to it. Hidlo love is gefen vesatlas. If you have a vineyard, if you have a grapevine growing next to your mavi, you can take one of the branches and put it out over your mav and use it as a korah. Okay? Can you do that by a sukkah? No, of course not. Why? Right, because chak can't be mechuber l'karka. Okay, that's simple. That's obviously chiluk. Now the next one is really cool though. Hilav is given as at last. Now harder temer base aside. When can you use a given and at last to be your koira when your mova is less than a base aside? Aval yotzim base aside. If your mova is more than a base aside, Mr. Zuger, how much the base aside? You gotta know for tomorrow morning anyway. It's coming up again tomorrow morning. No. Certain amount of square tefachim.
And then you have secular humans. You have
5,000. The square root of which is 5,000. It's an important number. It comes up many times in Eruvin. Just recently, a whole bunch of times. It's not so even. It's approximate. What's the approximate square root? Math teacher, you got to know this. Square root of 5,000. You guys are bad. Oh boy, you bad. I'll give you a hint. What's the square root of 4,900? So what's the square root of 5,000? Number we just had. By Tchum. 70 2/3, right. 72 thirds. The carpaf around the city is 72 thirds. The square root of 5,000. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
If 70 is the square root of 4,900, 72 thirds is the square root of 5,000. So here he says if the mavui is more than 5,000 square amos, so then you can't use the geffen or the las to be your korah. Why is that? Because you can only use a more than, there's a principle, less than, we're going to have this tomorrow morning again, less than a base of sign doesn't have to be mukaf ladira, doesn't have to be enclosed for the purpose of habitation. More than base of sign, if it's not enclosed for the purpose of habitation, not allowed to carry there on Shabbos. That's what I say, if there's more than a base of sign in your Eruv, which is planted fields or brackish water, so your whole Eruv is puzzled. It's not mukaf ladira. Remember all those pictures we had in the Perish Chayes and my see, isn't it great to learn Yerushalmi right after Bible? You get all this good chazor. Here's a case of a here. These are carpefos. Where's a good one? Sorry, we're talking the carpet. Here, we have zroim in the zroim in the see 100 by 550. If you have 5,000 square amos of zroim, a planted area in your enclosure, ruins the enclosure, right? So it means that if you'd have to do some ma'isa to be makif l'dira. You have to diminish this area. So the bottom line is, here it makes so cheshbon how you get 5,000. So the bottom line is that just like Yerushalmi says, just like a carpaf more than a base of sign ruins your hekef, because it's not mukaf l'dira, so too if the hekef itself is made out of zroim, is made out of a plant, right? What's the plant here? The geffen or the glass. That's how it's in mukaf l'dira. It can't be a good mechitza. It's an amazing comparison. I don't know if you get it fully. In this case, this ruins the enclosure. You have zroim, plant area more than 5,000 square amos. That ruins the enclosure. What happens to your enclosure is more than 5,000 square amos, and the enclosed area is more than 5,000 square amos, and part of the enclosure is a planted thing, a natural wall. That too is ruined by being affiliated with something more than 5,000 square amos. Is that clear?
It's because you can't look at it as a hecker.
Right, it's not a hecker. Yeah.
It's part of the plant, it's part of the foliage.
When it's too low, but it's part of this gezerah here. But even if I want to make it. Even if, let's say, there's no foliage in the inside, there's no foliage. This is the only foliage. This gate out of the glass or the geffen is the only foliage. You can't have any foliage as part of your enclosure if you have more than 5,000 square amos. Just like you can't have more than 5,000 square amos of foliage, you can't have any foliage as your enclosure if you have more than 5,000 square amos enclosed. It's like a reflexive principle. So you're not mispoiled from this at all. Okay.
Doesn't have any impact on the
What? No, because according to Rabbanan here that it's the hecker. Both according to Rabbanan and according to Rabbi Yehuda. Sheimataz Nasak and Mechitza Shukva Zroim. Shukva Zroim, it's like a mechitza which is around a planted area. A seating area. You're only allowed to carry 4 amos within the enclosure. Okay? The next case, based on alpha at the top, if you have more sun than shade. Sukkah psula, sukkah it's also right. Movli kosher. Obviously, by movli we don't care. We don't have any roof at all. Sukkah mikura psula. If you have a sukkah which is roofed over, it's also right. A roof is bad by a sukkah. Movli mikura kosher. A movli which is roofed over is good. But more than that, it's not just that it's good. It means it's good even if it's above 20 amos. That which Chazal said, you don't say a koyer above 20 amos doesn't apply to roofed over movli, because there even the Rabbanan are moed the what? If the movli is roofed over, truly roofed over, even Rabbanan can see that. What do we say? What did I say before? Because here you got 3 walls, right? So for sure by 3 walls you say Piti Kuriyard V'Soisim. So even according to Rabbanan it works where the mov is above 20 amos. According to Rabbi it works even on a koira, even on the beam, which is not a real roof. Or Rabbanan only works on a true roof. But once you have a true roof, it works even above 20 amos.
Come together like this, which is what they say. It's not parallel. Is hitting one of the walls.
It's hitting all 3 walls. Yeah, that's why it's good. That's why it's good. That's why here in this case, everybody knows it's good. Right. Only because you have the roof hitting all 3 walls. Okay? You seem very cynical about tonight's block. So be good above 20 amos. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Amishim Rabbi Yeshua Omar Lo Sof Dover Mekure. It's not just the truth is there's even a kula korn Rabbanan. Not only if it's roofed over is a good above 20 amos, el nasan maltelo. If you made a substantial korah, im yesh barochav arba tfachim ateres amovli. The korah itself is 4 tfachim wide. That also say p-tikra. Because what's the minimum size of a tikra? Guess from what I just told you. It's the minimum size of a ceiling, a roof. It says here you made it 4 tefachim wide, so it's a valid roof. What's the minimum size of a roof? 4 tefachim. Okay? So that means if the core at the top, the front of the mob is 4 tefachim wide, so then you say PT Kor even going Rabbanan, and it's good even above 20 amos. You don't need the whole mob, the whole thing's roofed over. This is a big chiddush. This is a chiddush because here it seems like the tikra doesn't hit the back wall. What? Yeah, but it only is on two walls. It's only on 2 walls, not on the 3rd wall, and the 2 walls are not as suyas kamin gam. They're not like that. The reason why this is coming to mind is because Moshe Feinstein has a tshuva in the first chelik of Igros Moshe, which I just reviewed last week because of some correspondence I'm having. On Brooklyn. There was a rabbi, it says in the book Rabbi Rafal Ber Weissmandel, but I think it's a typo, I think it's Rabbi Michael Ber Weissmandel. The Rabbi Michael Weissmandel wanted to be Matir Brooklyn without an Eruv, because he said on 3 sides there's the sea, there's water, and on the 4th side you have the elevated train tracks. So the Choretz Apliya, well, what was he thinking? So he wanted to say Pitikru Yerushalmi, not Sursa Bethel, that the elevated train tracks should be Pitikru Yerushalmi. But the thing is that it's not. How could he have said this? It's not. I was just the other day looking at it. It's ludicrous because you don't have 2 walls. Kamin Gam, right? You don't have 2 walls like this on the elevated train. So I chap that it's obvious from the truth that he wanted to say, no, you have 3 walls, because the back walls count, right? The sea walls count as 3 walls, and then the P-Tikra is only on the 4th side, and that's okay. But I didn't understand how I could possibly have said such a thing, because I thought that in order to say P-Tikra, you need the wall to stretch all the way back to those walls, and be like a giant ceiling. But here you see you don't need that. Here you see P-Tikra Yerushalmi as long as you have 3 walls, even if the P-Tikra is not affiliated with that back wall. So you see that explicit in the Yerushalmi. So Rabbi Weissmandel was not an idiot, right? He knew what she spoke. Why doesn't it work? So Moshe says, I'll tell you why it doesn't work. He says, because P-Tikra Yerushalmi, it only works for underneath the Tikra. Says even if the walls are, even if you got the walls, it still only works for underneath the Tikra. So if he says you can't carry behind it. Now here, Lichar and Mavli, we see not that way, because here in the Mavli they can carry behind the Tikra, right? Right. So that's what you have to say. That but there, in a Mavli, so Chazal said P-Tikra is enough to carry even if you're not directly under the Tikra. But in Brooklyn, which is not a Mavli, right? So therefore it wouldn't work. But gives Rabbi Weissmandel Avamina much more credence now that I see this Yerushalmi. Okay, it makes much more sense. Okay, so again, El Nasa Maltum Yeshbo Rocha Barbot Fachim Ateres is a Movi. Rabbi Chanina B'Shem Kahana said Halacha. And now here's a major typo. Major typo. Everybody points out. Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. Halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, shouldn't be halacha. It should be halacha Rabbi Yehuda. So says Mar. Obviously, the locate. If you would have told us that Mano Nomrin, what do you think we would say? Right? You think we're passing like Rabbi Yehuda? What are we, idiots? We don't know he passing Yochid Rabbi halacha Karabim. You have to tell us this. Yeah. El begin the Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi B'Shem Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So it's Rabbi Yaakov. He said name Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Halacha Kedivrei HaMekel B'Ilchos Eruvin. We always passing like the Mekel and Ilchos Eruvin. We just learned this in the Bavli a few weeks ago, right? As a result, Allah Rabbi Yechim. Now this is something which you're not expected to recall, because I didn't recall it either. But what happened is there's a machlokes between Rabbi Yechim and Rabbanan. Somebody fell asleep Erev Shabbos, more than 2,000 amas from his city. It was asleep in Hashmoshos. Is he koina the entire 2,000 amas, or only koina Dalet amas? So Rabbanan holds they only get Dalet amas. Rabbi Yechim calls even a Yoshin acquires 2,000 amas, right? So that's where you say, no, yeah. So that we say, can you put it, you sure? You put it back when you finish? Yes. So that's what we say, Allah is like Rabbi Yeshua ben Nuri, Allah is like Rabbi Yechim ben Nuri, even though he's the Yachid, right? So we see Yachid, even though Yachid the Rabbim, he was the Yachid who said you get all 2,000 amos, and the Rabbi, the Rabbanah said you only get 4 amos, nonetheless Yachid Rabbi Yachid, right? Umakshina Allah, and we asked there, located Rabbi Yaakov B'Idei, B'Shem Rabbi Yeshua Levi, located Divrei HaMekel B'Ilchos Eruvin. Why there we have to paskin like Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri, L'char Locha K'Divrei HaMekel B'Ilchos Eruvin. Now Lieberman takes out the next 2 lines to Sovereign Meimar. You can read them in, but they're just redundant. They don't really say anything. And Sovereign Meimar, I might have thought, the reason why, nonetheless, Rabbi Shimon Levi had to pass like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is because I might have thought Sovereign Meimar. Do you have the place, Mr. Zuger? I just skipped 2 lines. Sovereign Meimar Yochid Eitzel Yochid. The one that we pass in like the Mekel only when it's a 1-on-1 machlokas. But it's 1 against many. Hello, I don't paskin like the Yachid. Asa Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, and Rabbi Yaakov Shem Rabbi Shimon Levi, and that tells halachic Rabbi Yochanan Nui, Va'afilu Chachamim Chaluki Mula, and even though Yochanan Nui is take a Yochi b'Mokum Rab, we still passing like it. Nuoi Ba'azoi, if that's the case, says more Vekate halachic Rabbi Yehuda. So, if you're saying the Yochi b'Rabbi Malochic Yochi b'Ilchos Eruvin, Akadei Kach, so then here too we should pass him like Rabbi Yehuda. Say no more. Says the Gemara, Shmuel Amar. If the Gemara doesn't answer you, we'll get to your answer in a minute. Shmuel Amar. Now we'll start another thread and come back to it. Shmuel Amar Rabbi Chia Barashi Kagona Id Tiniya Tamon. It's also like we learned over there, the case we already brought down in base on my base, Aleph on base. Even under the bridges, where Rabbanit say you can't carry under the bridge, Rabbi Yehuda says you can because he holds two mechitas work the Raisa and Pitikra and the rest. So do we even pass in there like the Mekilim? Says Marna. Low. Now here the Yerushalmi changed the Girsa. You can get squeeze out with the Girsa with the way it's written, but it makes it easier. Look at the Yerushalmi, it's on the bottom. The truth is, it's really the carbonator. I don't know why I need the why I needed the Yerushalmi, but he just says Lo mechitzas amarti ela eruvin. Just switches it around. Lo mechitzas amarti ela eruvin, meaning that we only paskin that Allah could even make up eruvin, like you said, by terms of the kinyan of the eruv. Kinyan of the eruv, there will be chatzeres, schiras rishus, bittul rishus, all the concepts of being koine eruv, whether it be eruv tchumin or eruv chatzeres. There I paskin like the make up eruvin, but when it comes to making mechitzas to the actual walls, there I have to paskin l'chumrah. And here, this machlokas Ravina Rabbanan, that's a machlokas about the mechitzas. Even though it's a machlokas in the Rabbanan, because Kaira is the Rabbanan, right? But nonetheless, the mechitzas themselves are more severe. The parameters of mechitzas there have to go, and sometimes have to follow the normal parameter of Yochid v'Rabim, Alochid Karabim. So where the individual argues the majority, you have to pass like the majority. It's only by the kinyonim of the Eruv, right, acquiring of Tchumen, acquiring of Chatzeres, things like that, there can be made like, even like a Yochid.
That's the human factor, and the mechitzas are physical.
Chetz and the Gavra. Right, you can only be making the Gavra, not in the Chetz. Okay, you're a brisker. Now, says Gemara, Funkain, and that's what Gemara finishes up, Savar Kahana called it the Shmuel. That Kahana holds like Shmuel. Funkain, so remember, that's what it tells us, ain't a law Rabbi Yehuda. You should know laws like this, because now we don't pass like the Meko, Be'ervin, but only by the kinyonim and not by the mechitzas. Now, period, full stop. New question. Our Mishnah seems to indicate that only where the koyach is mamish above 20 amos is no good. What if it begins at 20? What if it begins at 20 amos? Right. In other words, a sliver of it is within 20 amos. Now it seems Yerushalmi holds that that the koyach has to have a thickness, right? We said the koyach has to be. I don't know enough about the Yerushalmi yet. None of us do, because it's virgin ground for us. But the Bavli said never gave a minimum width for a koyach. Just said it has to be strong enough to be makabel a brick, right? So I assume that implies a minimum width. So the shaila is, what if the bottom part of the koyach is within the 20 amos, but most of its width is above 20 amos? So it sounds like it's kosher. It sounds only it's completely above 20 amos, no good. But as long as a sliver of it, again, lomar elamalam esmel b'soifer esim kosher. But if it's at the end of 20 amos, it's kosher. The taya kirav. Taya is like v'asya. Goes like rav. The Rav says sof shim lakel. The outer limits can be makel, but as long as something hits within the outer limit, even technically speaking, that's good enough. Rabbi Yochanan argues. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Amar sof shim laachmir." No, you can't say that the shiur, as long as something hits the outer limits, it's good enough. It has to be fully or primarily within the limit. Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Yochanan says. By the way, it's not hard yet, is it? I don't know what Lieberman wanted. Maybe there's some hard plot later on. Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Mavish across the Lamalam Yesri. Rabbi Chia named Rabbi Yochanan said again. Now this is a kasha. Basically, Rabbi Yochanan just said Yemachmir, right? It has to be completely within the shiur. Wait a minute. What about this? Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. That's a fascinating thing. I didn't even notice that. Rabbi Chia is quoting Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan came after Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia was the senior Talmud of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rabbi Yochanan was one of the junior Talmudim. Yeah. And yet here is quoting Rabbi Yochanan. That's an amazing thing. No, of course not sure the same Rabbi Chia, and it might not be the same Rabbi Chia because the Yerushalmi always calls Rabbi Chia. Why does the Yerushalmi always call Rabbi Chia? You guys are off tonight. What am I going to do with you? Rabbi Chia Ruba. Rabbi Chia the Great. Always calls him Rabbi Chia Ruba. What? No, that's the point you're making. You said maybe to them Rabbi Chia, because it doesn't say Rabbi Chia Ruba. Okay? You gotta take up coffee. It helps. Rabbi Chia b'shem Yochanan says, "Mavi shekaros." What? Rabbi Chia b'shem Yochanan said, "Mavi shekaros l'malam yesrim." No, you say korach b'toch esrim. You put the korach within 20. U'mimayit b'toch esrim, and all you have to do is put a little bit in 20, right? It's a kasha, right? Rabbi Yochanan said before you need the whole the primary thickness within 20. It says just a tad within 20. Rabbi Yisrael said no. What Rabbi Chia meant to say in Rabbi Yochanan is v'hu shetei kol hechsher korah b'toch esrim. Don't misunderstand. You need the substantial part of the korah within 20. Now, Rabbi Chilka Amar b'shem Rabbi Yachon. Who's the name Rabbi Yachon? You know what? Vafilu k'Rav Asya. The truth is, even though Rav normally said sof shiur and lohakil, as long as a sliver is in the right shiur. This is mamish like last week's parsha. Just struck me. There's a famous vort that's based on Bilam's klola. It's based on Taisus and Brachos. A whole bunch of people make this deal. Many achronim. Bilam's klola. Taisus says how could Bilam was able to be mechaved the shosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu koes, right? When Hashem got angry. So they asked, it was just a rega, not the show. It was just a moment. So what can he say in that moment? So today's kids two terutzim. One is he would say the word kalein, which takes just a moment to say to eradicate them. The other is that once he starts the klola, he gets to finish it. So they say that it's contingent on these two terutzim and taisvus is what's the halach if somebody starts as mincha within the zman mincha, but it's going to finish after the zman mincha. If you say that Bilam had to get the whole klola in, so you have to have it all mincha before shkia. If you say that Bilam, once he started, he could finish, so as long as the thing is that here, the same thing, Machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Rav, if you think about it. Rabbi Yochanan holds, Rav holds, all you need is a sliver within the shiur. And once there's a sliver of the korah within the shiur, the rest of the korah could be beyond the shiur. Rabbi Yochanan holds the entire korah has to be within the shiur, right? You can't have just a sliver. So it's very similar to those two terutzim and toises. You have this concept over here where the sof shiur and lahakil, sof shiur and lachmir. This machlokas shimran Rabbi Yochanan is not brought down in the Bavli, but it's mamish these two terutzim and toises over there. Okay?
Even if you're passing your stuff
They didn't speak about but there are Hasidim or Makbid to start before, but Mamish on the border. Like here, Rabbi Echstein Shul, they do that. They start Mamish like the moment before Shkia. So that would be that. I don't know what to do with the after Shkia school. Can't be miyash of everything. So in any event, so here it says the truth is even Rav would so shurim lohakel. Here it would be machmir. And that's where it says vafilu karav asyohi. Even like Rav it goes. The Rav Amar Shchita for Rav made a special gzeira. For example, what's Rav gzeira? It says Shchita mechza kshera. Hypothetically speaking, if you shecht an animal's neck, well, the animal, let's take the simon, the veshet, right? You shecht 50% of the trachea. Well, it's the esophagus veshet. Either one, the trachea of the esophagus. So hypothetically, it's kosher. Mechza is okay. We pass it away because say oimet kiporutz is like oimet merubal porutz. We pass away also with Pervin. So which is 50% is like 51%, then it's good. Okay? So shchita mechza chair, but lo amru psula, but mirabona they pass it. We name Marisayin. Because people can't tell, right? Shim tema shiyitain b'toch is a mistake. It should be b'sof. And here too, it's the same thing. If you tell them that it should be Sheitain B'Sof Esrim, they can begin it at 20. You're going to make a mistake and put the entire thing above 20. So therefore, it's a Gzeir Rabbanan. Even though you might say Sof Shem Lokel Mikra Adin, but nonetheless because of Marasayim, because of mistakes and accuracy. So therefore, you have to have the substance, just like by Shchita. Even though 50-50 is hypothetically kosher or machmir, so too, even though hypothetically begin at the point where 20 amos begins, nonetheless you have to have the majority within the 20 amos. Okay? You might. New issue. Kates might. How do you might the movli? For it's the movli, the core is above 20 amos. So say it's staba pesal movli. You make a step at the opening of the movli. Umatir movli, that permits the movli. Kami able, how wide does the step have to be? It's machlokes. Yerushalmi says, "Arba tvachim k'dei movi." The step itself has to be 4 amos broad. What stretch has to stretch in the depth of the movi 4 tvachim. Why 4 tvachim? Because that's the minimum shiur of mechitzas. So to here, this is the minimum shiur. Okay, k'dei movi. That's the shiur mechitzas of movi. That's the minimum we have to have. Rabbi Yossi Amar tefach. No, all you need is that the step should be a tefach broad. Kidei koira, which is the shear of the koira. In other words, whatever the width of the koira at top is a tefach, that's the width you have on bottom, meeting it so it's within 20 amos of the ground. Not wider than that. Okay? Chevraya mean koshu. Chevraya say can even be a koshu. The step can even be like a minimal thickness. Why is that? Why does it suffice? Because I can't go rochav tefach. The problem is if the entire tefach of the width of the koira is above 20 amos. But it's not, because you have a sliver which is within 20 amos. If it's a heker, that's sufficient to be a heker, right? So that's sufficient. That they all is sufficient. We know pass away, but that's what suffice going to. Oh, it does have a little off here, but I don't think we pass away. Maybe we do. Alright, I'm not sure. Now, says more, what about the opposite case? Loya gavoa asar tvachim. What if the korah was too close to the ground? It was within 10 tvachim of the ground. Tzarech lochu. In that case, you have to carve into the ground, right? Carve out. Kama yochu, how much? Rabbi Yachal Amar Daled Amos Kedei Movli. You have to have 4 amos, which is the shear of the movli. Now, some of the Farshim say he argues because before it said the shear of the movli is 4 tvachim, here it says the shear of the movli is 4 amos. So some say it argues, but others say it doesn't argue. That if you have true mechitzas already, which you do have, so then the shear of the movli, which relates to the koira, only has to be 4 tvachim. But here we're assuming the whole mechitzas of the movli are lower than 10 tvachim, and therefore you have to have a shear of a mechitza. What's the shear of a mechitza? 4 amos. So there, Again, if you want to reconcile the two Gemaras, the one which before said you need a step, which is 4 tefachim broad, and the one here which here says you need an indentation, which is 4 amos broad, you say that there we have true mechitzas, or you need is an area which correlates to the Korah, that's sufficient to have 4 tefachim. Here we are creating true mechitzas for the Mavli by creating a depth of 10 tefachim in this place, so there you have to have, in order for that to work, you have to have actually a full 4 amos in order to create a chashma mechitza. Okay? Either way, you can still learn the Suryas and Marachaylik, it's not a big deal. Because Rabbi Yosef Mar Arba Tvachim, 4 Tvachim is not Kadei Mokum, which is a significant place. Rabbi Yaakov Racham Shem Rabbi Yosef Shem Rabbi Yochanan, it says, it is a cool thing. It's dangerous, but it works. In order to be Yotzei Zayin everything, you don't want to put up a koira. What do? You make a choritz al Pesach HaMovli, omak hasoira, v'rochav arba. Make a trench. Make a trench 10 tefachim deep and 4 tefachim wide. Right? So it's 10 tefachim deep. 10 tefachim deep this way and 4 tefachim in breadth. So you Yotzei everything. Right? Because you don't need a koira because you have a wall. You have a 10 tefach high wall. You might fall into the trench. Right. You fall into the trench, but hypothetically you got a wall in front of you. What? No, you make it inside the movie, so it's not a Bor B'Shus Rabin. It's a Bor B'Shus Hayachid. Okay? But it works. That's what you say. It works. That's the bottom line. Okay? So, the truth is you can make it a ramp going into it, right? You don't have to make it all of a sudden, right? As long as at the base, the 4 tefachim by 10 tefachim, that's sufficient. Okay. Works on the inside because now, even if the walls were not deep enough, now you have a place where the walls are deep enough for 4 tefachim, and it works also that the koira or the koira of the lechi is constituted by the side of the trench. Now this only works if it's within 3 tefachim of the koslim of the movi. In other words, if here's the end of the movi, and here you make your trench, so it has to be less than 3 tefachim over here. Okay? This has to be within 3 tefachim. Okay, here's a Bor B'Shus Rabin, it's a kacha, I don't know, but you have to be less than 3 tefachim between the trench and the walls of Movi. What? That's on the outside. This is on the outside, right? So it's saying what? Yeah, that was enough to kill. Hey, in the service of Shabbos, what has to be moiser nefesh. Okay. Now, the clash is like this. Or rather, this is the clarification. There's a shiur Rabbi Gamliel holds, and I have it later in the Masechta. Rabbi Gamliel holds a shiur of Loved is 4 tefachim, and that's why if you have 2 half koros, Loved. That's if you have 2 half koros, well coming out like this, and well coming out like this, he holds this could be up to 4 tefachim here in the middle. Okay, but that's only, says the Gemara, and here I'm going to read it with the Reb Chaim Kanievsky's Tikkun Girsa. Moidei hacha b'shloisha. Here you can see it's got to be within 3 tefachim. Why? Tamon toch lamavui. Okay, it changes, switches, transposes the words. Tamon toch lamavui b'ram hacha chutz lamavui. In other words, where the korah is over the mavui, and you just need to connect the 2 parts of korah, so there 4 tefachim suffices. As long as it's in 4 tefachim. But here, where it's beyond the mavui, and you want to connect to the mavui, so there it's more of a chumr, and has to be within 3 tefachim in the mavui. Okay? Altogether, with Pesach HaMavui, Gavasar Rochav Arba, say if you didn't make a trench, but rather you made a mount of 10 tefachim by 4 tefachim, so that's also good enough, right? Matir HaMavui Beivnim Bevachutz, it's Matir HaMavui both inside and outside. Hayasham Geder. Now, what about if there was a wall, there was a mound there? It's not cheap, but it's if it goes up 10 tefachim within 3 amos. Rabbi say we didn't have this in the Bavli. that the slope is 3 amos and this is 10 tfachim. If it goes up like that, then that's a wall. We never had sheet in the Bavli. What's the sheet in the Bavli? 10 in, not 10 in 3, but 10 in 4. 10 in 4. Tell me socket asor mitoch arba, right? Here's the sheet in the Yerushalmi. It's got to be 10 and 3. It's obviously much steeper, right? And the Yerushalmi even sounds about chlokis. So in the socket asor mitoch shlosha. If it's not, tzarich kaira. In other words, if it's not this steep, then it really needs a korah. Beam lab, and if not, in other words, if it's close, if it's more steep, then ain't tzarich korah. Ain't tzarich doesn't need korah because it itself is a korah. If you have such a mound in front of your movli, then that's a korah. Now the mound can go down on the other side, right? So it doesn't have to be a one-sided mound. But this tight is then in lieu of your kaira, right? East tani b'toch arba. And here the Yerushalmi brings us machlokas. Again, we don't have such machlokas in the Bavli. Bavli just brings the sermon b'toch arba. But it's a machlokas. Ma'adamar b'toch sholosh rabbanan. He also has to be within 3 amos. That's rabbanan. Ma'adamar b'toch arba Rabbi Meir. And of course, the Bavli holds like Rabbi Meir. What if you had the slope not outside the movi but inside the movi? In the middle of the movi you had a slope. So
for the ones on top, it's like a hole. What? A ditch, and it's behind them, so it does no good, right? So they need another kaira. But the ones who are below, this is their fence. In other words, if the mavi rises in the middle, say this is a cutaway of the mavi, right? And the mavi rises like this, and then continues like that. So, and this is the opening over here. So for these guys, they already have their wall. What's their wall? The angle over here. These guys need another korah at the front. Okay, it's only for them. It's like a chritz behind them. It's like a garden in front of them. Okay, stop here for tonight.